For RCR Wireless News, my name's Sean Kinney, and I'm joined by Mr. Chetan Sharma, who's a strategy consultant here in Austin, Texas for the 5G New Horizons Wireless Symposium and some of the other programming that's taking part. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us. And I'd be curious to hear, after one day of activities, what are some of the highlights that you've noticed? What are some of the influential companies and people really pushing?
I think the ecosystem is driven by the operators, and operators have been making announcements around which cities they want to deploy 5G. So I think that probably is the biggest highlight for me from the morning. Verizon, AT&T, Sprint, and T-Mobile kind of either reiterating their plans, what they want to do with 5G, or announcing some new cities where they want to deploy or test 5G.
Yeah, we saw some new announcements from Sprint about target markets for their 5G, and we were certainly reminded of Verizon's activity around the fixed wireless aspects of their 5G. Now, I'd be curious to get your take on, just to keep with the Verizon example, as they deploy fixed wireless based on their Verizon technical forum standard, then move on to NR, then move on to mobility. What does that process look like from the infrastructure side? Are they able to reuse equipment and sites, or is it new construction?
I think sites they can, but equipment is new, since one is non-standard and others are standard-based. And I think it's very targeted, still in the testing phase versus full-scale deployment in a city. And so I think they will probably learn a certain set of things, both from a technology point of view as well as a business model point of view, that they can then deploy for 3GPP-based deployments and getting into mobility.
And Chetan, I know you are based here in the US, but you do have a global perspective. You know, we've seen a lot of interesting mixtures of spectrum that are being pointed to as 5G spectrum. What do you think the most advantageous mix is?
I think given the nature of the 5G is all about extremely high throughput capability, while you can do significant amount of high bandwidth types of application in 28, 37 and higher bands, the coverage is a problem, and that is a hindrance to actually deploying it at scale. And as such, kind of the mid-band 3.5 is the ideal band that can give you a little bit of coverage and capacity. And ideally, an operator will want to have deployment across all the three types of bands, low, mid, and high. But the mid-band is considered a property where you can go really high throughputs if you have enough spectrum in that band, and you can provide decent coverage in a given city.
Yeah, you mentioned 3.5. Globally, that is a 5G band, but here in the US, we've very far down this road towards CBRS and sharing of the 3.5 band. Does that present any potential future problems if the rest of the world uses that as a 5G band, whereas in the US it's used for three-tier priority sharing?
I think it poses a problem of challenge in terms of scale of the types of equipment, devices that are being built, or infrastructure that is being built on 3.5. I think when they were thinking about 3.5 and CBRS, they were really not contemplating 5G and what it might look like or what other countries might do. But over the last 6 to 12 months, decidedly, a lot of countries have moved towards 3.5. And so I think FCC will try to figure out a way to allocate some spectrum in that vicinity. To what extent they're successful and to what extent other participants on that band are willing to participate, I think remains to be seen. But fundamentally, I think it is a good band to have for 5G services.
And now back to this idea of a mixture of low, mid, and high band spectrum. I know it's not a done deal yet, but with the pending merger of T-Mobile and Sprint, they would be in a pretty advantageous position given T-Mobile's 600 holding, Sprint's 2.5, and then their higher band, right?
It is a good combination, without a doubt. It gives you both coverage and capacity.
And I also think you're taking part in a session tomorrow. Can you maybe preview that for us?
Yeah, the idea is to kind of provide a summary of what we have heard, maybe try to separate fact from fiction, and see what's real and what's really happening in the market, and what to look forward to for the remainder of the year and getting into 2019, when 5G will really start to take shape.
And you also host an event of your own out in Washington, correct?
Yeah, we do a fall event called Mobile Future Forward in Seattle.
All right, very good. Well, Mr. Chetan Sharma, thank you so much for taking a moment to speak with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.